Nirvana speaks the oracle, and I am saved. Thank you, listener, for memory.
How does someone in an undifferentiated state speak of the undifferentiated state when it is ineffable? How do you make effable the ineffable if the ineffable is ineffable by reason of it being unable to be encoded into anything because it does not separate itself out in ways that you can make rules of correspondence and languaging, semantic relations, to make semiotics, semantic function between the symbol and the symbolized, between the referent and the referred to. So given that presenting problem, then it was Wittgenstein would say, well then shut up. You can't do it. It's impossible. Your language is not only a private language, like some schizophrenic or something, some kind of word salad, and so, or that you've tried to be a scientist about this and be true to it and articulate about it and localize it and do logical positivist mappings, that all your language is reducible to not only a theoretical language, but to observables and sensate language and the surfaces of the physical reductionist world. If that's the rules of the game you play by, to use language as a logical positivist, then what happens when you have the problem of private language, where your private language, even if you're very worldly, is talking about other frames of reference or other observables or other sensate stuff that none of the rest of us are privy to, in such a way that when you speak with your private language, it is too private for the rest of us. And so it's a problem. Interpersonally, pragmatically, pragmatics of it, it's a problem. And so, so either shut up or don't expect us to listen. It's not a winning situation. It's not workable. Now that doesn't stop poets from trying to be poets and trying to make effable the ineffable, or trying to make linear the non-linear, or try to localize the non-locally correlated non-localized. To try to give a sense of, a gist of, a felt sense of how to take non-discursive prosenic immediacy and like on the spinning wheel, take the hairball, the multidimensional, fuzzy translogic thing, and to begin to take a skein of it off, get it on the wheel, and make something you can make warp and woof and weaving from it. How do you make non-discursiveness become discursive? How do you make discursive formations, as Foucault said, of that which is in and of itself non-discursive? Well, you can say, well, don't even try, or what are you beating your head against that wall for? Or you could say, like me, that's a hell of a lot more fun than chess, or sports, or anything else I can think of, or sex, or anything. It is the great challenge, it's the great wonderment to come up against that and to work it, to be spirit butting heads with other aspects of itself, some of which is coming back at you like, I'm inanimate, I'm not spirit. Or you coming to it and construing it as, that's not animate, that's not spirit. There's a great gulf here. There's a Cartesian dualism, whatever the hell you want to say. But don't try to tell me it's all consciousness, or it's all one vast, all-inclusive, universal interiority. And of course it is. That, for me. Of course for me. Of course for the guy down the block, of course not. What the fuck are you talking about? So, the problem of private language, part of it here now is, I've got a new kid on the block candidate for that, which is, if in fact there's a new generation emerging, kind of an anomaly in the species, kind of foreshowers of what's to come, and it may be enough centuries down the line that I'm much more premature than I even think I am. I'd like to think it could happen in our lifetime. The pace is really picking up, getting non-linear. I don't know. Most people haven't learned their lessons, haven't gone through enough lifetimes, they're just so, what some Seth would call a very young, or what the Michael material would call a very young soul, immature soul, and it takes kind of growing souls and giving them a lot of fields to go out and play in and interact with and fight and knife and cut and be hurt by, and you are what you eat, internalize and grow from and become the corpus of and eat off of other corpuses. And, I mean, you have to mix it up with a larger reality enough, even if you're this kind of projection of the universal. You have to mix it up with other portions and precincts of the universal and other holders of that privileged position of the consciousness node of the universal to learn your lesson, to grow, to realize your absolute spirit, and therefore to have not only compassion for God's sakes, but to be an identity condition with all you're surrounded by. Why on earth do harm to it? Why on earth not know it like a book and love it like your own body and your own being? Why not Why not work together? Why not have the old negative space brother negative connotation of the hive mentality? The Greys, they're all high mentality. They're sub-individualistic. They watch out for that. Or what was it, the Borg or something in Star Trek? Well, so you've got the problem of, if the good news is we may be entering the possibility of moving alchemically, self-transubstantiatingly, allowing oneself to be entrained and giving over, setting the intention of it that it be the case, and giving yourself over into larger hands, but programming it in a sense, setting the limitations on it, not anything, only for the good, best and highest good, and from the hands of the less dissociated precincts and realms and being or beingness. But to literally put yourself in the mercy of that because you want to pick the pace up and you really want to be of service to other, which is, again, one of those three definitional criteria of the shaman, at least for some people, is that it's to be of service to others that they wouldn't otherwise get that service, so somebody's got to do it. Anyway, it looks kind of freaky to most people who can't partake of it or wouldn't normally go there. But if it heals them or helps them or gets their power animal or gives them insight, it gets them to talk to the ancestors or something else, maybe that's it still for it. So here we've got, what we've got is, I am saying in my most recent writing and publications and conference presentations that are along this vein, that we are entering a possibility of at least transiently, partaking of a quantum coherent state with regard to our consciousness, brain beings, or psychoenergetic systems, to come into that state such that it is no longer an effort, an indirect mediating thing, a linear thing, to, you could say, channel God. You channel God by entering to becoming state specifically or state dependently at the same wavelength and the same consciousness as that which you want to connect to. Not in a cross time and space connecting to, because it's all we're differentiating out of it and made out of it and dying and rising back out of it every iota instant. We're surrounded by it. We're imbued with it. And it's a hell of a lot more than the zero-point energy vacuum. That's just one little slit take of it. So, if in fact we can partake of a quantum consciousness, we can actually find ways to help ourselves and each other reach that state more predictably or faster, or high-tech, high-touch, high-tech devices that'll, a chamber you can go into that'll do that, help you. That then, what do you get from that? Well, it would be the ultimate consciousness or cognition on steroids, I guess you could say, but that's just too empty. You also have, your heart would be bursting with love and compassion, and it's like the ultimate near-death experience. If you could move transiently through an episode of quantum coherence, it would be like you died out of the old stable psychoenergetic system and moved into a heterostatic state, kind of out of body, more superimposed with and spread out over a higher dimensionality and possibilities and frames of reference to partake and experience things before you came back into the more slam back into your body, which you maybe didn't want to do at that point after you seen the larger, taste of the larger reality. So maybe the Bose-Einstein condensate is a transient way that some creative people and inspired people in dreams and hypnagogic states and so on, that they actually have a little stretch of that and they taste it. And they know what I was talking about. Most people have had that naturally occurring, non-drugs. And so you probably know in some way that you've had a version of that. But you didn't really harvest anything from it. You didn't come back with any fruit from it that you could eat from and learn and grow from, or that anybody else could. Artists do it, writers do it, some philosophers do it, some inventors do it. Plenty of people do it, but it's a very small percentage of the overall population. The grandmother has the interesting dream or gets the wisdoms finally. Then when she opens her mouth for the great-grandchild, it comes out in such a beautiful flowing way. It's inspired speech, but it's also built on decades of lived experience, and it's tempered and it's humble and it's wise and it's earned in a way. Can you come from that place without ever having been on the planet that long? I think it's possible. I think channeling is a way to kind of have that enter you or enter into it, to have a transient state of partaking of that such that you can bring language back from it. You can bring messages from it. You can make excursions into it, psychonautic excursions, not just into yourself introspectively, as Houston and Master said, but to make psychonaut sojourns into higher dimensionality, into the larger universal interiority of all that is.
The flood will come, but you must not forget the oracle. You can say